Hey everybody, and welcome to our first Game Awards special of the year. I'm your host, Eric Schweitzer, and I'm joined today by Editor-in-Chief Stacey Henley, who is here to argue one thing, and one thing only. Spider-Man 2 should win Game of the Year. Now, Stacey, we have some stiff competition this year. Obviously, I think that some may argue that there are some front runners, and those same people might argue that Spider-Man 2 is not one of them.
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh, you would? No, you can't start with "you would agree."
No, it's not a front runner. I don't think it's a favorite. I don't think it's expected to win. I think it's maybe his fourth or fifth most likely out of the sixth. I think it would be a shock if it won. I think it deserves it.
And you have a difficult job today.
Yes, I think I'm up against it. Going to bat for Spider-Man.
Give us the broad argument. Why should Spider-Man 2 win?
Look, we review a lot of games. I always say there is more to games than fun. It's it's what they kind of bring to the medium. It's what they maybe say narratively. It's new mechanics that they have. But ultimately, games are fun. I don't think anybody, regardless of what their favorite is or what they expect to win, I don't think anybody would say any of the other five are more fun than Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the most enjoyable minute-to-minute game on the list, and I think that's being just dismissed out of hand a lot as we kind of look at 2020 things. I think mathematically it's the best game we've had in like 26 years or something, according to like Metacritic averages. So this is a heavy year. Last year it would have swept. Elden Ring was last year. Year before that, when like It Takes Two won, we wouldn't be having this conversation. No one else would be arguing. Spider-Man would have won. It's a great game. Up in a really tough year, but I think it represents something quite, I don't know, vibrant and very peaceful about the medium that I just think is worth celebrating, especially when there's so many hyper-realistic, very dark, very dreary games out there.
The joy of Spider-Man, that's your argument.
Yeah,
okay.
Basically.
Well, so for one thing, it's definitely the most iterative game on the list. I mean, it is just basically a game that came before, but slightly better.
The game that came before was a Game of the Year nominee, though.
You think Spider-Man 1 was Game of the Year worthy as well?
That came out the same as Red Dead Redemption 2, so no. But it was up for it. It was up for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
It does build a lot on what Spider-Man 1 did, but I think the way it does it, not so much in the main story, where it is kind of a iterative kind of building block thing, but certainly in the side missions, they feel a lot more cohesive. They all feel more like their own little quest lines down, not just activities you do where they get bored of saving the city. They are an active part of the overall storytelling experience, whether you play as Miles, whether you play as Peter. There's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man quests. There's Miles saving the museum. There's obviously the flashbacks with young Peter. I think there's just a lot of extra storytelling juice in there, and something that I'm sure we'll talk about a lot as we get into this. But the boss battles as well, I think, are a major step up from the first game. They were the biggest weakness in the first game for me, and I think the biggest selling point of this new one. It takes a lot of what didn't work about what was already a very good game and makes them even better.
We talked about Spider-Man 2 at length in our review video. There's no denying it's a great game, but we're here to argue why it deserves to win. Okay. Now, I'm going to be Reddit. I'm Reddit now. How are you going to tell me that a game I could beat in one day should be Game of the Year?
Well, it's the third longest game on the list, so don't give us that, Reddit. I'm sorry, but it's longer than Mario, it's longer than Resident Evil, it's longer than Alan Wake. So it's got... But no, it's obviously shorter than Baldur's Gate and Zelda, which are the two frontrunners. I think Spider-Man is the most replayable game on the list. I know people will say you can never fully see everything in Zelda, or you make one decision in Baldur's Gate, you do the other thing. Especially Baldur's Gate, I think it's a great game, but Spider-Man just has it recaptures the feeling that I had when I was younger playing GTA, and there'd be so many GTAs, everyone will have this feeling, regardless of what GTA game it is, where you can spend 2 hours and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You can just play the game. You can just swing around, take some pictures in the photo mode. I do wish you could replay some of the old one. I know this is the thing that you have an issue with. You can't replay the symbiote nests or the hideouts things. I do think that would improve it. I expect that will come with the update when they add all that kind of accessibility things in and the photo mode things that they're talking about adding. But I just think you can give someone the controller who doesn't really play video games and just say, right, enjoy yourself, and they will. And I don't, other than Mario, I don't think any of the games have that, and I think that's not to be trifled with.
I did write about how much is missing from Spider-Man 2 compared to the original and Miles. Doesn't it feel like this is an unfinished game?
I don't know. I think there's context to that. Spider-Man 1, as we said, came out. It was a Game of the Year nominee in 2018. Since then, Insomniac has released another Game of the Year nominee because it released Ratchet & Clank, which was a print in 2001, and the Miles spin-off. So this is the fourth game, and they've also remastered Spider-Man, so I guess that's 5. But the fourth new game that is done in 5 years. It's polished. I didn't have the cube error, or like Miles's like body is appearing. I didn't have any real errors at all when I played it, and I played it pre-launch before they patched a few things. So I think the context of wanting to keep releases flowing quite steadily, knowing that they're going to update, knowing that there's going to be a lot of these. We already know they're going to have a little like stick figure or toy figure stuff like that in the photo mode. We know they're going to add more things in the future. It wouldn't surprise me if rather than everyone's been talking about will they do a 2.5 game, if rather than do that they make quite a large expansion to this, bigger than the 3 that we had for Spider-Man 1, but a real meaty Miles introduction to whatever happens in 3. Whether it be Haley, whether it be Cindy, whatever they do with that. So I think they're going to keep... You can't give a game of the year for what it might be in a couple of years' time. I understand that. I think it's very, very strange that Cyberpunk is an ongoing game. It's not an ongoing game.
No, it's not.
It was a bad game that got DLC that made it slightly better. But I think... Given that this is Insomniac's fourth major game in 5 years, it came out polished. It is a good length. It functions fully as intended. Doesn't feel like anything's actually missing from the core experience. So when you kind of dig into replaying it, I am less critical of the missing features, which I concede are there because of that around it, whereas I feel like people were probably harsher on Starfield because it was so long in the making for it to come out and not quite have the stuff that it needed. I think, rightly or wrongly, I'm obviously going to argue rightly, people are more inclined to give Spider-Man 2 a pass for hitting its mark by trimming a couple of extra details off it. Like, you can't take selfies anymore, but I would rather that than it be delayed 3 months.
Yeah, you know what? I actually find this your most compelling argument so far, because I think that there is definitely something worth celebrating the way Insomniac makes games and saying, as a gaming community, this is how we want games to be made. It's okay if they're shorter. We want a studio that can sustainably make games, put them out at a constant rate, and they're always going to be good and enjoyable, versus... we spent 10 years making Cyberpunk and it sucks, and a bunch of people suffered for it.
And they don't crunch either, which isn't. I don't know other studios. I don't have the background on the 5. Nintendo are very, very secretive about how much kind of crunch they have. We don't have a big Naughty Dog style. Crunch is good because it gets Result Studio up for the Game of the Awards this year. So I don't know if that's really an advantage over the other 5 games. I know Larian has not crunched on Baldur's Gate, so I delayed it for so long. So I think it's just a victory for gaming.
Well,
we can all celebrate that.
We can't justify Spider-Man winning unless we justify the other games losing.
That's true.
So my first question is, in the year of Baldur's Gate 3, does it not feel a little bit like comparing Return of the King to, Spider-Man 2?
That's a pretty loaded question for a few reasons, because you know that I love Baldur's Gate, but I don't like Lord of the Rings.
It won 13 Oscars.
And Spider-Man should have had more. No, look, Baldur's Gate is a great game. Spider-Man and Baldur's Gate will both be very, very high on my Game of the Year list. I do think, if you're going to look for reasons why Baldur's Gate shouldn't win, it also has a load of stuff missing. More stuff than Spider-Man. Some of Baldur's Gate is missing. It's in the title.
Ah, you're right.
Like, you were supposed to go into the city. The city's not there. It's... I really don't like that I'm going to bat against Baldur's Gate, but it is buggy. Yeah. It's a longer game, and I think that lends itself to being a little bit lopsided at times with its pacing. There's lots of people who say, like, I missed this, I didn't do this, and some of it's in a fun way of, I didn't get to do this, but in some of it's like, no, I didn't know you could do that, and then I, did the Shadowlands thing. Try not to spoil because we're not on the Baldur's Gate version of this. I know someone else is doing, but like, there's stuff you can do in Act 2 where it's just like, okay, everything you've done so far, that's not happening. Like, Halsin just died for me. I just did something. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. And I was like, no, Halsin's dead. He's never come back.
It shocks me a bit how much of a phenomenon that game is, because it is so... I would consider that a very inaccessible game. It's hundreds of hours long. It's a very crunchy RPG. It's in many ways the opposite of Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Baldur's Gate definitely represents a pinnacle of the gaming industry, and I wouldn't have a lot of complaints if it won Game of the Year. But being here representing Spider-Man, I do think there are things that Spider-Man brings to the table that Baldur's Gate doesn't. And I think it depends on what you view these awards as. If you view these awards as the gaming Oscars, the pinnacle, the best games that have been made, maybe it should be Baldur's Gate. But these aren't the Oscars. These are the MTV Awards. That's why they are full of adverts. That's why we have this. I mean, 6 of the biggest games of the year. There's no like little small indie thing. There's no like critical darling in
There's
the
no
mix.
Oscar bait in the Game Awards.
No. At the start of the year, I'm surprised that Final Fantasy's not there. I'm a little bit surprised Starfield isn't there. Hogwarts Legacy is its whole thing. It's probably not there because they didn't send it to half the journalists because they were worried they'd be given a negative score by it. But I could have called, other than Baldur's Gate, I could have called all of these being in Game of the Year at the start of the year. And I think the style of award that the Game Awards is, it's a crowd pleaser. It's very focused on excitement and enjoyment and accessibility, or approachability at least. Spider-Man represents that more than any other game on this list.
I can't argue with that. I mean, we don't have a Best Kiss category in the Game Awards, but it doesn't feel like we're that far off. And then the other one you have to defend against, which I realize won't be difficult for you at all, is Tears of the Kingdom,
baby. Oh yeah. I guess some context for people listening. I hate Tears of the Kingdom. I hated Breath of the Wild. I don't understand it. I appreciate on a technical level that some of the stuff it does with physics, great. It's a very, very well made game, and I understand why other devs are very impressed by it. I don't understand why players are impressed by it. It's just an empty field. It's just a big empty field. It's like, you can go here or here or here. What's there? Well, nothing really. But isn't it fun to run across them? There might be a horse that you can run back on.
This is a truly bad faith argument. I can't wait till we're doing our group, The Gamer Picks the Game Awards, and you're gonna have to go face to face with some real, true Zelda believers, and I'm excited for that conversation.
I think I will understand strength in numbers and will immediately change my minds to Baldur's Gate in some of these conversations, just because I know Spider-Man won't get through the crowds.
Okay, that's the next question. Spider-Man should win, but what actually will win? You say?
I say Baldur's Gate. I really thought it would be Zelda. I thought all through the year it would be Zelda. I thought at the start of the year, I thought when it came out and got those scores, it would be Zelda. I even thought when Baldur's Gate 3 came out and people were like, this is good. It's like, Zelda's still going to win.
Right.
But the way Baldur's Gate has stayed in the conversation, the way people who, like you say, it shouldn't be this accessible. but the way people who don't really play CRPGs have latched onto it and have remained connected to it. Probably carried a lot by the performances as well. I'm surprised there's only one performance up for best performance, to be honest, for Baldur's Gate. I think Baldur's Gate will take it. I think it'll take most things it's up for. Don't think it should win all of them, but I think Game of the Year, I think it'll be a shootout between Baldur's Gate and Zelda, despite being here for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think it'll be between those two, and I would have to pick Baldur's Gate over those.
Certainly the biggest cultural impact, I think.
Yes.
It has stayed in the conversation much longer than Zelda did.
Yes, surprisingly.
Yeah, very
really
surprising. But there's a bunch of hot characters that you can sleep with.
You can.
And that's
sleep as many of them as you want over and over again.
That's really the.
So Spider-Man still wouldn't win Best Kiss because it would be Baldur's Gate.
All right, next week we'll go into Best Kiss category. That'll do it for this video. Do you have any closing thoughts on Spider-Man 2?
I think it's been Game of the Year has been reduced into a 2-horse race with people occasionally saying, "Oh, also Alan Wake," and I just think Spider-Man deserves to be. Even if people aren't going to say it should win, I'm really surprised it's being dismissed as just another game that came out this year. When I think it should be in the conversation for it. I'm really surprised that so many people are quick to say no chance.
Right. Fair enough. Well argued. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching. We'll be back with another Which Game Should Win the Game Awards video tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. You can read more about Spider-Man 2 on The Gamer. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no space.